Throughout history, ships have been found adrift, abandoned, untouched, and utterly unexplained. Those are not sailor stories. These are documented cases, ships found drifting, intact, abandoned. No storm, no struggle, just vanished crews from the 1800s to 2007. Some vanished forever, others exploded before they could be inspected, and some appear again and again in the same place. This isn't fiction, it's recorded history. Why did the crew of the Mary Celeste vanish from a perfectly seaworthy ship? Why was the SS Orang Medan found with its entire crew dead, their faces frozen in terror, radio transmissions cut short by a single final word, "I die"? And why do sailors still report sightings of the Flying Dutchman, centuries after it supposedly vanished into storm and legend? These aren't just coincidences or superstitions. They're reflections of a deeper truth, one that historian Marcus Rediker suggests lies at the intersection of fear, labor, and isolation. According to Rediker, the sea has always served as both workplace and wilderness, where economic pressures collided with psychological extremes, and where the line between rationality and madness often blurred. Creepy ocean mysteries, haunted ships at sea, maritime mysteries unexplained. These stories endure not just because they frighten us, but because they expose the fragility of control in a world ruled by tides and storms. To command a ship is to defy nature itself, and sometimes nature responds. But what if there's more? What if behind every ship vanished without trace, there's a warning, not just about the ocean, but about us? Tonight, we begin a journey across centuries and coastlines, across fact and folklore. From the cursed voyage of the Flying Dutchman to Cold War secrets aboard the SS Orang Medan and romantic vengeance aboard the Lady Loverbond. These tales are not just maritime myths, they are emotional fault lines, each one a reflection of what happens when love, ambition, and fear meet the endless sea. Before we start, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. We have so many other stories to tell. Let us begin. The Flying Dutchman, Defiance at Sea. It begins, as many sea legends do, with a storm. The year is 1641. Captain Hendrik van der Decken is at the helm of a Dutch East India Company vessel, caught in the Cape of Good Hope's brutal winds. He refuses to turn back. According to surviving records and later accounts, he curses the storm, dares God to sink him, and swears, "I will round this cape, even if I must sail until Judgment Day." And that is exactly what the stories say he did. But the Flying Dutchman ghost ship isn't just a tale of eternal punishment. It's a mirror held up to human defiance, the kind that emerges when pride overrides instinct, and when the command of a man tries to outshout the laws of nature. From the 18th century onward, sightings of a glowing, spectral ship near the Cape terrified sailors. In 1881, Prince George of Wales, later King George V, claimed he saw it, describing it as a strange red light, as of a phantom ship all aglow. For centuries, sailors whispered of the cursed ship's legends, but the Dutchman was different. It wasn't sunk. It didn't vanish. It endured, endlessly sailing, endlessly punished. The sea didn't take it. It trapped it. Historians suggest the legend was born from the extreme conditions of early Dutch colonial voyages, where overworked, malnourished crews often hallucinated during long stints at sea. According to maritime historian Basil Lubbock, these voyages were plagued by rebellion, disease, and superstition. The sea wasn't just dangerous, it was judgmental. But why has this ship endured so vividly in modern consciousness? Because it isn't just a story about sailing, it's a story about hubris. The Dutchman became a symbol, warning that no matter how far science and navigation progressed, the ocean remained a force that could not be conquered. Flying Dutchman ghost ship sightings continue into the 20th century, most notably in 1942 by the crew of a U-boat who reportedly changed course to avoid a glowing ship with tattered sails. Were these hallucinations, optical illusions, or something harder to explain? We may never know, but the Dutchman lingers, because at its heart is a man who refused to yield, and a sea that never forgets. As we move from defiance to dread, ask yourself, what terror could compel an entire crew to abandon a vessel still afloat? In the next chapter, we'll board the Mary Celeste, a ship not cursed but emptied, not punished but abandoned. Let us continue. The Mary Celeste, Silence in the Wind. On December 4th, 1872, the Dei Gratia, a British brigantine, spotted a drifting vessel near the Azores. No distress signals, no damage, just a ghost on the waves. As they boarded, they found it. The Mary Celeste, fully intact, cargo undisturbed, food supplies untouched, and not a single soul aboard. There was no sign of struggle, no blood, no lifeboat, just eerie silence and an open logbook entry from 10 days prior. This wasn't a shipwreck, this was a vanishing. For over 150 years, the Mary Celeste has haunted both sailors and scholars. What makes it endure isn't the drama of disaster, it's the chilling absence of explanation. This was a ship that should have been safe. And yet, its experienced captain, his wife, young daughter, and entire crew were simply gone. Initial theories pointed to piracy, mutiny, or foul play, but the facts refused to align. No valuables were taken. The hull was dry. According to marine historian Charles E.D. Fay, the only real anomaly was a disassembled pump and a single lifeboat missing, hardly enough to justify mass panic. So what happened? Anthropological analysis suggests that the psychological weight of open sea decision-making may be the real answer. Imagine the captain, Benjamin Briggs, isolated in the Atlantic, his barometer dropping, the ship listing slightly, unsure whether it was taking on water. Faced with the specter of a storm and malfunctioning equipment, he may have made a fateful choice. Abandon ship temporarily, with no chance to return. But why would a seasoned seaman make such a call? Some point to toxic alcohol fumes from the cargo, 90 barrels of industrial-grade alcohol, possibly causing fear of an explosion. Others believe a sudden waterspout or rogue wave may have given the illusion of imminent disaster, but each theory only deepens the mystery. As author Paul Begg notes, the Mary Celeste is a puzzle not because it happened, but because it happened without any clear reason. This is what sets the Mary Celeste apart among maritime mysteries unexplained. It reflects not terror imposed, but terror imagined, a breakdown of trust between humans and their environment, a psychological fracture, invisible but fatal. The ghost of the Mary Celeste isn't her hull, it's the question she left behind. What would make you leave everything, even safety, behind in the open sea? And the sea never answers. If the mystery of the Mary Celeste haunted you, we've dedicated an entire deep dive documentary to her story, examining every theory, every clue, and the psychological toll of that final voyage. You'll find the link pinned in the comments below. Next, we shift from dread to destruction, from an empty ship to one filled with death. The SS Orang Medan wasn't found drifting silently. It was found filled with corpses, their faces frozen in horror. The SS Orang Medan, death without a mark. In 1947, a chilling distress signal crackled across the Strait of Malacca. All officers, including the captain, are dead, lying in chart room and bridge, possibly whole crew dead. Moments later, a final transmission, I die. Then silence. When rescuers boarded the SS Orang Medan, what they found turned rumor into terror. The entire crew, dozens of men, lay dead. Eyes wide, arms frozen in defensive positions, jaws locked in horror. There were no wounds, no signs of struggle, Even the ship's dog was dead. And before investigators could search further, the vessel suddenly exploded, vanishing beneath the waves and taking its secrets with it. This case stands apart in the realm of paranormal sea stories, not just for its body count, but for the sheer absence of explanation. Theories span the spectrum: poisonous gas leaks, clandestine military cargo, even supernatural causes. But at its heart, the Orang Medan is about Cold War fear and the weaponization of secrecy. According to maritime researcher Roy Bainton, one plausible theory is that the ship was smuggling nitroglycerin or potassium cyanide, highly volatile substances possibly intended for covert operations. An undetected leak of such chemicals in the ship's poorly ventilated cargo hold could have produced suffocating, invisible fumes, killing the crew in minutes and triggering the eventual explosion. But here's where the story takes a darker turn. The SS Orang Medan may never have existed in any official registry. Some believe the name was a cover, a ghost ship in every sense, unlisted, untraceable, erased. If true, it speaks to a post-war world where maritime activity blurred between trade and espionage, and where some ships sailed not for nations, but for secrets. As Bainton notes, what makes the Orang Medan terrifying is not just the deaths, but the sense that someone wanted us to forget them. What does it mean when a ship's final words are, "I die," and no one ever claims its wreck? Among all creepy ocean mysteries, this one still burns with unanswered questions, and the feeling that some forces, chemical or otherwise, remain untouchable even by time. And yet, the Orang Medan is not the only ship whose death echoes political tension. The next vessel was found wrecked off Cape Hatteras, its crew gone, its mission uncertain. But its legend, strangely familiar. In The Carol A. Deering, we'll see how mutiny, sabotage, and post-war paranoia may have collided aboard a schooner that became America's own ghost ship. Let us move forward. The Carol A. Deering, Mutiny in the Fog. January 31st, 1921. The Carol A. Deering, a 5-masted schooner, runs aground on the treacherous shoals of Cape Hatteras, North Carolina. From a distance, the ship seems intact. But as rescuers approach, an eerie truth emerges. The crew has vanished. The galley is mid-preparation, the logbooks are gone, and lifeboats are missing. Not a single trace of the 10 men aboard will ever be found. To the press, it's instant legend. A new American ghost ship, stranded on what locals call the graveyard of the Atlantic. But this isn't just a nautical mystery. It's a story forged in the paranoia of the post-World War I era. The United States was gripped by labor unrest, rising anarchist fears, and the specter of Bolshevism. According to contemporary FBI records, government agents investigated whether the Carol A. Deering had fallen victim to a communist mutiny, crew members radicalized, then fleeing or killing the officers in protest. Others speculated piracy, citing similar disappearances in the region, and still more whispered of international sabotage, part of a covert plot to destabilize American trade. But none of these theories ever led to arrests or answers. Historian William Giroux, who specializes in maritime disappearances, argues that the Deering's fate reflected the psychological toll of merchant sailing life at a time when captains ruled with iron fists and crews were often overworked, underpaid, and emotionally frayed. One theory posits that the first mate, openly hostile to the captain, led a mutiny, only for something to go disastrously wrong. But what truly unsettled investigators was this: the ship had clearly been sailed to its wreck site on purpose. It didn't drift. It was guided there, a silent act of defiance or desperation. The wreck was dynamited shortly after for safety, erasing further clues. No lifeboats were ever recovered. No bodies were found. The Carol A. Deering remains, to this day, one of America's most chilling ships vanished without trace. Its story lingers not because of what's known, but because of what it suggests. That in an era of deep social fracture, even the sea became a battlefield of ideology. If a mutiny did occur, was it madness? Protest? Or something darker born from the tension of a world not yet healed from war? As we turn next to one of the most infamous marine legends in the world, the Bermuda Triangle, we leave behind politics and step into the realm of myth, but not fantasy. Because what we'll uncover next is how this myth was engineered, sold, and believed, not just by sailors, but by a nervous modern world craving mystery. Let us enter the triangle. The Bermuda Triangle, a modern myth engineered. It covers over 500,000 square miles of ocean, from Miami to Bermuda to Puerto Rico. Within this triangular stretch, dozens of vessels, aircraft, and entire crews have disappeared without trace. No distress calls, no wreckage, just silence. But here's the twist. The Bermuda Triangle wasn't always a mystery. In fact, the term didn't exist until 1964, when journalist Vincent Gaddis coined it in Argosy magazine. Before that, these waters were known simply as dangerous shipping lanes, where hurricanes, magnetic anomalies, and human error often conspired to tragic ends. So what changed? According to historian Richard Weiner, the Bermuda Triangle legend was born not from sailors' logs, but from Cold War anxiety, growing air travel, and the public's hunger for mystery in a hyper-rational world. In other words, the triangle became a canvas for our fear of vanishing, modernity's version of sea monsters. Take the USS Cyclops. In 1918, this massive Navy coal ship disappeared with over 300 men aboard, somewhere between Barbados and Baltimore. No wreckage, no survivors. Theories range from structural failure to enemy attack, but conspiracy theories flourished, fueled by government silence and wartime tension. Or the case of Flight 19, a squadron of 5 Navy bombers that vanished in December 1945 while on a routine training mission. Radio contact grew erratic. Navigation failed. The pilots were never seen again. A rescue plane sent after them also disappeared. The official Navy report called it cause unknown. But is the Bermuda Triangle really cursed? Modern oceanographers argue that the region's unique geography creates complex weather patterns and strong underwater currents. Methane gas eruptions from the seafloor, known to reduce buoyancy rapidly, have also been proposed. GPS and flight recorders have made accidents easier to trace, but the triangle's reputation remains untouched. Because this isn't about evidence, it's about meaning. The Bermuda Triangle serves as a psychological pressure valve for a culture obsessed with control. According to cultural critic Jeffrey Kripal, it's a sacred geography of fear, a space where rational minds are allowed to believe, if only briefly, in forces beyond comprehension. In this way, it isn't just a location, it's a modern myth-making machine, a zone where technology fails, authority vanishes, and the ocean reminds us it still has the power to swallow pride. Ask yourself, do you fear the Bermuda Triangle because of what it does, or because of what it represents? In our next chapter, we return to the wreckage. The MV Joyita was found adrift in 1955, floated perfectly, cargo untouched, but crew missing. Radios smashed, clocks stopped, trust broken. It is not a ghost ship born of myth, but of human failure. And it asks a terrifying question. What happens when machines fail and people no longer believe in each other? The MV Joyita, trust lost at sea. In October 1955, a small trading vessel named the MV Joyita vanished en route from Samoa to the Tokelau Islands. It was expected to take 2 days. It never arrived. 5 weeks later, the Joyita was found drifting over 600 miles off course. It was partially submerged but still afloat, thanks to its cork-lined hull. The cargo was missing. The logbooks gone, lifeboats gone. And most haunting of all, so were all 25 people on board. The scene aboard was chilling. Blood-stained bandages, a doctor's bag left open, a radio tuned to an emergency frequency, its wires deliberately cut. Every clock on the ship had stopped at 10:25. But there was no sign of foul play, no damage suggesting attack. The crew had left behind working engines, ample supplies, and a vessel that, while listing, was in no danger of sinking. So why did they flee? The MV Joyita is one of the most perplexing cases in maritime mysteries unexplained. Not because the ship disappeared, but because the people did. According to the New Zealand Marine Department's official inquiry, the ship's captain, Thomas Miller, was suffering from a leg ulcer and likely unable to maintain order. The ship had engine failure and navigational issues, and one of its bilge pumps was out of order. But these issues alone would not justify abandoning a seaworthy vessel. Instead, scholars suggest that panic played a far greater role than technical failure. The crew may have believed the Joyita was sinking, and with no reliable communication, decided to abandon ship. But why was the radio destroyed? Why did no one survive or leave trace? Why did the clocks all stop at the same time? This is not the realm of fantasy. It is a case study in psychological breakdown at sea, when trust in leadership, technology, and each other collapses. As historian Joan Druitt notes, the Joyita didn't just lose her crew, she lost their faith in her. The MV Joyita reminds us that not all ghost ships are cursed, some are simply misunderstood. Yet their silence speaks volumes. From the breakdown of trust, we next enter the realm of obsession. The Lady Lovibond is said to have crashed on the same reef every 50 years, cursed not by nature, but by jealousy, rage, and doomed love. What happens when human emotion becomes a curse no ocean can erase? The Lady Lovibond, love that condemned a ship. February 13th, 1748. On the eve of his wedding, Captain Simon Peel sets sail aboard the Lady Lovibond, a majestic schooner bound for Portugal. Breaking centuries of superstition, he brings his bride along, a choice many sailors believed invited misfortune. But Peel was in love, and love makes men bold. What he didn't know was that another man on board was in love with her too. According to legend, the ship's first mate, maddened by jealousy and heartbreak, took control of the helm under cover of night. In a fit of rage, he steered the vessel into the treacherous Goodwin Sands off the Kent coast. The ship broke apart, killing all aboard. This alone would be tragedy, but the Lady Lovibond became something else entirely, a ship that does not stay sunk. Witnesses claim it reappears every 50 years, glowing with ghostly light, sailing the same doomed path before vanishing again beneath the waves. Sightings were reported in 1798, 1848, 1898, and even 1948, when a local tugboat captain swore he saw her pass in silence, her sails full, her deck empty. Nothing was ever found. But here's what makes this tale linger. It isn't just a story of the sea. It's a story of obsession turned fatal, of romance twisted into a curse, and of how deep human emotion, when left unchecked, can echo for centuries. Unlike other haunted ships at sea, the Lady Lovibond is not remembered for mystery, but for meaning. It is a maritime love story in reverse. No happy ending, no safety in port. Only a cycle of betrayal and doom. Anthropologists studying English maritime folklore view the Lovibond as a cultural morality tale, warning not against the sea, but against the destructive potential of unchecked passion. As Dr. Marion Gibson of Exeter University notes, this legend endures because it captures how love and loss become inseparable when tragedy is unresolved. So if you see a glowing schooner on Valentine's night, sailing toward destruction again, you'll know it's not just a ghost, it's a warning. And from romantic tragedy, we shift to sorcery. Next, we travel south to the waters off Chile. The Kalush is no Western myth. It is a vessel of indigenous memory, shaped by colonization, secrecy, and survival. A ghost ship, but also a form of resistance. Let us head into unfamiliar waters. The Kalusha, ghost ship of the oppressed. In the mist-heavy waters off the coast of southern Chile, fishermen sometimes speak in hushed tones of a ship that sails only by night. It glows with unnatural light. Music and laughter echo from its decks, and just as quickly as it appears, it vanishes. They call it the Kalush. But unlike the Flying Dutchman or the Mary Celeste, the Kalusha isn't a tale of tragedy, it's a tale of transformation. Rooted in Chilote mythology, the Kalush is said to be a living ghost ship, manned by the spirits of those who died at sea, or those who were taken. According to legend, it sails beneath the command of brujos, sorcerers, who conscript the drowned and the cursed into eternal service. Yet this is no mere tale of fear. It is a vessel of survival, a secret sanctuary in the face of colonial erasure. Anthropologists studying the Mapuche and Huilish peoples believe the Kalusha reflects centuries of cultural trauma. Spanish colonizers dismissed native belief systems as superstition, even as the stories themselves evolved into covert ways of preserving memory, identity, and resistance. In the face of Catholic conversion and imperial violence, the Kalush became not just a myth, but a coded form of history. As scholar Ana Mariela Bacigalupo writes, for many in Chiloé, the Kalusha represents a parallel world, a vessel where the rules of colonial dominance do not apply. It is a symbol of agency in a world that tried to erase them. Witness accounts persist. Locals claim those taken by the ship reappear days or weeks later, changed, silent, marked by something unknowable. It is said the ship can submerge beneath the water, disappear into mist, or turn invisible to all but those it chooses. Unlike Western cursed ships' legends, the Kalusha is not a warning against arrogance or betrayal. It is a mirror of cultural resilience, shaped by oppression, secrecy, and the need to endure. Its spectral glow is not just mystery, but memory. Ask yourself, what do we call a ghost ship when it carries not the dead, but the forgotten? In our next chapter, we return to American waters, where morality and exploitation collide. The Palatine Light, a glowing wreck off Block Island, is said to appear in flame each winter. But was it a ghostly echo, or the consequence of greed? Let us investigate. The Palatine Light, fire on the water. Each winter, off the coast of Block Island, Rhode Island, some say you can still see it, a flickering glow on the horizon, like sails engulfed in flame. Locals call it the Palatine Light. But behind that spectral fire is a history soaked in ambiguity, where the line between mercy and murder is still bitterly debated. The legend begins in December 1738, when a German immigrant ship, often called the Palatine, though its true name may have been the Princess Augusta, was driven aground near Block Island during a brutal winter storm. The passengers were mostly impoverished refugees from the Palatinate region of Germany, hoping for a better life in America. What happened next remains unclear and terrifying. Some accounts claim the islanders rescued the survivors, providing food, shelter, and care. Others whisper a darker version, that the islanders lured the ship aground to loot it, plundering its cargo and abandoning, or even murdering, the weakened passengers. In this version, one woman refused to leave the ship and was last seen screaming as the wreck burned. According to 19th century poet John Greenleaf Whittier, who helped popularize the tale, that woman's ghost still sails the coastline, trapped in flame. But Whittier was drawing from oral traditions that blurred fact and fiction, leaving historians with few solid answers. What we do know is this: the Princess Augusta did wreck near Block Island. Passengers died. The ship was burned. and no official inquiry was ever made. For some, the Palatine Light is a ghost ship, an echo of suffering, a punishment for islanders' alleged crimes. For others, it's a folkloric symbol of maritime danger and moral reckoning. But beneath the firelight is a deeper question. When desperation meets opportunity, what choices do people make? And what truths get buried beneath folklore? As cultural historian Michael Bell notes, the Palatine legend isn't just about a ghost, it's about guilt, a haunting not of the sea, but of conscience. Next, we cross into the 21st century. GPS, radios, satellite tracking, all should have made vanishing impossible. Yet in 2007, the Kaz-2, an Australian catamaran, was found adrift, intact, engine running, table set for dinner, and once again, no one aboard. Technology may have advanced, but the sea still wins. Let us go forward. The Kaz-2, a modern Mary Celeste. April 2007. A sleek white catamaran drifts off the coast of Queensland, Australia. The Kaz-2 had set sail days earlier on a short, routine journey. But now it's eerily empty. When maritime authorities boarded, they found the vessel in perfect condition. GPS systems were running. The engine was idling. The sails were slightly torn, but the table was set for a meal. A laptop was open. A cup of tea sat untouched. And yet, there was no one aboard. The three men who had sailed it, experienced yachtsmen, were simply gone. In a world of satellite navigation, radio beacons, and real-time tracking, such vanishings aren't supposed to happen anymore. But the Kaz-2 proved that the ocean's oldest trick, taking without trace, still works, even in the digital age. The case captivated Australia and quickly earned the moniker, the modern Mary Celeste. Investigations ruled out foul play. There were no signs of struggle, no damage consistent with piracy or accident. The boat was seaworthy, with enough supplies to last weeks. So what happened? Some speculate that one of the men fell overboard and the others were lost trying to rescue him, dragged away one by one in the current. Others point to sudden squalls, ropes tangled in propellers, or a malfunctioning anchor winch as triggers for a cascading accident. But here's the chilling part. None of these theories explain the full scene. Why were the men not wearing life jackets? Why was no distress signal sent, despite functioning radios? Why did no one, on a fully modern boat, leave any trace of what went wrong? The Kaz-2 is proof that mystery doesn't end with progress. It evolves. As maritime researcher Rachel Franks writes, the Kaz-2 reminds us that the line between security and disaster at sea remains razor thin. Even now, we think we've conquered the ocean, but we've only digitized the silence. Among all creepy ocean mysteries, this one cuts especially deep, because it's ours. It happened in our time, and still it leaves no answers. Next, we step into the space between history and horror. The Demeter, known to literature as Dracula's ship, may be fictional, but its story is anchored in a very real terror sailors once knew, that evil can travel unseen, and fear often arrives in the form of cargo. Let us now sail into the realm where folklore begins to feed on fact. The Demeter, Dracula's voyage into the uncanny. August 1897. A battered schooner crashes into Whitby Harbour, England. No crew, no captain. Only a dead man tied to the wheel, and a logbook filled with escalating horror. Rats, strange cargo, whispers in the dark. The vessel's name, the Demeter. Of course, this ship never truly existed. It is the doomed vessel in Bram Stoker's Dracula, the carrier of the Count from Transylvania to England. But the fear it evokes, silent ships arriving under clouded skies with death in the hold, is drawn from older, very real maritime mysteries. Stoker knew what he was doing. He based the Demeter on real 19th century shipping routes and injected his narrative with the psychology of isolation. The crew vanishes one by one. The captain becomes a prisoner on his own vessel. The sea becomes the coffin, and the voyage, a descent. But here's the truth. Sailors feared more than storms. They feared what they could not name. Throughout the 18th and 19th centuries, records from British, Scandinavian, and Eastern European ports contain dozens of references to ships arriving with sick or missing crews, often during outbreaks of cholera, plague, or typhus. These vessels, dubbed death ships, were sometimes burned, abandoned, or quarantined, feeding the belief that something malevolent had traveled aboard. According to historian Marina Warner, the fear of the unknown traveler, of a presence hidden in the hold, was a real maritime anxiety. Dracula, in that sense, is a metaphor for the invisible forces seafarers knew could undo them. The Demeter, then, is not just a horror device. It is a concentrated version of an older archetype, the ship that brings misfortune, disease, or doom. Whether the evil is mythic or microbial, the terror remains. Stoker's brilliance lay in framing the vampire not as a lone predator, but as cargo. Something carried, smuggled, mistaken for routine, and then unleashed. In an era of expanding empires and global shipping, the idea that death could arrive as freight struck deep. It still does. If this part of the journey intrigued you, we've explored the deeper origins of vampire myths, how ancient fears, plague, and folklore shaped the vampire long before Dracula, in a dedicated documentary. The link is waiting in the comments below. From the imagined to the remembered, we turn next to a ship that did exist, and still does. The Queen Mary sailed through war and peace, carrying the famous and the forgotten. But below deck, it carries something else. Whispers, footsteps, shadows. Many say she is the most haunted ship in the world. Let us board her next. The Queen Mary, a floating archive of fear. Docked in Long Beach, California, the RMS Queen Mary rests in retirement. Once a crown jewel of transatlantic travel, she now lives another life, as a museum, a hotel, and some say the most haunted ship at sea. But the ghosts said to walk her decks aren't merely superstition. They are echoes of history and trauma. Launched in 1936, the Queen Mary was more than a passenger liner. During World War II, she was converted into a troop ship, repainted grey, stripped of luxury, and renamed the Grey Ghost. She carried over 800,000 soldiers and was so fast German U-boats couldn't catch her. But her speed came at a cost. In 1942, while transporting troops, she accidentally sliced through her escort ship, HMS Curacoa, killing over 300 men. Protocol forbade stopping for survivors. The Queen Mary sped on. The screams were left behind. That incident is only one of many. Over the years, passengers and crew members alike have died on board, falling, drowning, crushed by doors, overcome by illness. And with every death, the stories grew. Today, visitors and staff report unexplained footsteps, voices in empty rooms, and apparitions, some recognizable from archived ship logs. But this isn't just about ghost sightings, it's about memory embedded in metal. Historians who've studied the ship's transformation, from wartime vessel to luxury liner to floating museum, argue that the Queen Mary is a repository of emotional residue. According to cultural historian Colin Dickey, the Queen Mary has become a container for grief, trauma, and nostalgia. The hauntings people experience may be less supernatural than psychological, echoes triggered by space and silence. And still the accounts persist. A little girl seen near the pool that was drained decades ago. A sailor crushed in the engine room whose footsteps still echo near door 13. The sound of children playing in hallways long emptied. Unlike other haunted ships at sea, the Queen Mary is not lost or sunken. She floats, she breathes, she remembers. Ask yourself, if a place can absorb sorrow, What happens when it never leaves the water? As we near the end of our voyage, we step into myth itself. The next chapter brings us face to face with the ocean's oldest monsters. Not real creatures, perhaps, but reflections of chaos, randomness, and fear. The kraken, the sea serpent, and the monsters sailors had to believe in, because they needed something to name the terror. Let us dive deeper. The kraken and sea monsters, fear that needed a name. Long before radar and sonar mapped the ocean floor, the deep sea was not just mysterious, it was monstrous. To ancient mariners, what lurked beneath the waves was not absence, but presence. Tentacled, fanged, unknowable. They called it the kraken. First recorded in Norse sagas, the kraken was said to be the size of an island, capable of dragging entire ships into the abyss. Its tentacles were long enough to crush masts. Its breath could summon whirlpools. It slept in the trenches of the North Atlantic and woke hungry. But while it might seem like myth, the truth behind the kraken is more complex. According to modern marine biologists, tales of the kraken likely arose from rare sightings of giant squid, creatures that can grow over 13 meters long and have eyes the size of dinner plates. They are real, elusive, and were not officially photographed alive until 2004. Before that, they existed only in myth, brought back in the terrified accounts of fishermen who'd seen something, but couldn't explain it. And this is the point. As anthropologist David Gilmour writes, the sea monster is not a biological error, it is a cultural necessity. Monsters were not exaggerations. They were the sailors' way of speaking about what had no language, random disappearance, brutal storms, and the raw fear of powerlessness at sea. Whether it was the sea serpent of New England, the Scylla of Homer's Odyssey, or the countless unnamed leviathans in ship logs, each monster carried something deeper, symbolic weight. They were not always evil, but they were always reminders that the ocean does not care who you are. And yet something strange happens when you map these stories across centuries. The monsters move, the shapes change. But the fear, it stays the same. Because even in the 21st century, we still speak of rogue waves, unexplained vanishings, shadows in sonar scans. We still create metaphors for what we can't fully control. And the sea, silent as ever, offers no comfort. So what does it mean that sailors once believed the kraken was real? Perhaps it wasn't a creature. Perhaps it was a truth made flesh, that the ocean's unpredictability needed a face. And we gave it one. In our final chapter, we face the ocean's last judgment, a place where drowned souls were said to be claimed, judged, and locked away. Not by heaven or hell, but by the sea itself. Let us descend into Davy Jones's locker. Davy Jones's locker, the sea's final judgment. To sailors across centuries, death at sea was not just an accident. It was a reckoning. And the place where those lost souls were said to go? Not heaven, not hell, but Davy Jones's locker. The phrase is so familiar now it borders on cliché, used in pop culture, cartoons, and even theme park rides. But its origin? Much darker. The first known reference dates back to the 18th century. Sailors spoke of Davy Jones as a sinister figure who ruled the ocean floor. Some said he was the devil of the deep. Others claimed he was a drowned sailor doomed to claim more. But in all versions, his locker was a prison of the abyss, a place where drowned men were kept, bodies unrecovered, memories erased. Unlike other paranormal sea stories, Davy Jones didn't haunt ships. He claimed them. Linguists and historians disagree on the exact etymology. Davy may be a corruption of devil, while Jones could come from biblical or colonial roots. But the meaning was always clear. When someone went overboard and wasn't found, they were said to have gone to Davy Jones. Not just lost, but taken. Naval records from the 1700s and 1800s often mention sailors being committed to the deep. These burials at sea, performed quickly, often without ceremony, fed the idea that the ocean judged its own. No tombstone, no grave, just water and silence. As maritime historian Peter Stanford notes, Davy Jones is less a character than a concept. He represents the ocean's impersonal finality. He's what we invent when we cannot retrieve the dead. In this way, Davy Jones's locker is not just folklore. It is the ocean's ultimate symbol of unaccountability, where no answers are given, no closure is offered, only depth. And maybe that's the real fear. Not monsters, not curses, but the knowledge that some stories at sea end without explanation, without discovery, without return. As we close this voyage, remember, every ghost ship we've explored, every glowing sail, every vanished crew, every whisper through the mist, carries that same question. What do we become when the ocean forgets us? Or worse, when it chooses to remember? Let us now conclude. The deep remembers. Final reflection. We began this journey with legends, but now those legends feel different, don't they? Not just ghost stories, but fragments of history, grief, fear, and unresolved memory. The Flying Dutchman warned us about pride. The Mary Celeste showed us the terror of uncertainty. The SS Orang Medan reminded us how secrecy can bury the truth. And ships like the Cars II, Queen Mary and Palatine Light exposed something even deeper, that the ocean does not forget. It records everything, in silence. These aren't just cursed ships' legends. They're mirrors of who we are when we leave land behind, our hopes, our arrogance, our trauma. If there's one thing that ties all these stories together, it's this. The sea swallows certainty. We think we're masters of the waves. But every glowing sail, every vanished logbook, every empty deck draped in mist reminds us that maritime mysteries unexplained are not just about the ocean. They are about us, our need to explain what can't be explained, our hunger to remember what was never fully known. So ask yourself, what ghost ship haunted you the most? If this voyage stirred something in you, if it made you feel the cold breath of the sea, or question what's real and what's remembered, share it. Leave a comment below. Tell us which tale lingered. Which one felt too real? And if you want more of these dark voyages into the unknown corners of history, cursed ships, creepy ocean mysteries, and tales where fact and folklore collide, subscribe. Join us. You're part of this crew now. We've also gone deeper into the full mystery of the Mary Celeste in its own dedicated video, and explored how the vampire myth evolved, from ancient plague fears to Nosferatu in our History of Vampires episode. You'll find both links in the comments, along with our growing Dark History playlist, where forgotten truths are never truly lost. We'll see you in the next dark journey. Until then, listen closely. Sometimes the sea still whispers back.